What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel, and I'm here for a CD collection for the band Rush. Now, as of recent, I have collected all their albums, including their covers album, and I know I did a Rush CD collection before, but that was before I had all their albums, so this is going to be a full discography collection video, and it's going to kind of come with a little mini review for each album. Now, I do think Rush is a great band, and I think if you're any kind of fan of rock music, you should definitely give these guys a chance because, you're definitely missing out if you haven't checked out Rush yet. I think they're one of the greatest bands of all time. But without further ado, let's get started with this collection. First up, I got the self-titled debut, Rush. Now, not one of their best, but it is a good album, I think. Next up, we got Fly By Night, which is a great album, definitely a classic. Then we got Caress of Steel, another great album. Then we got 2112, which I think this is a very creative album, definitely dig it. Next up we got A Farewell to Kings, which is definitely one of their best in terms of their 70s era. It's a great album for sure. Some of their best songs I think are on this album, such as the title track, Closer to the Heart, and so many more. Next up we got Hemispheres, another great album. And then we got Permanent Waves, which is the first 1980s Rush album. Definitely a good one. Next up we got Moving Pictures, which is their biggest album, their most successful album. It's definitely a great one. Every song on here is great. It's got classics like Tom Sawyer, Red Barchetta, Limelight, Vital Signs, so many good stuff on this album. Next up we got Signals, which is another great album. Of course, it's got classics like Subdivisions, Analog Kid, Chemistry, Countdown. So many good stuff on this album, man. Definitely just excellent, excellent stuff. Next up, we got Grace Under Pressure. I think it's a great album. I do dig the synth work in this album. It's definitely very good. Next up, we got Power Windows, which I think is actually an underrated Rush album. Next, we got Hold Your Fire, which I once again think is another underrated Rush album. It's got so many great stuff on this album, like Force 10, Second Nature, Prime Mover, Lock and Key. A lot of great stuff on this album, and it's underrated in my opinion. Next, we got Presto, which is not one of their best albums. It is closer to the bottom for me, but I do like this album. It is good. Yeah, the first half of this album is definitely stronger than the second half, but it is still a good album for what it is, I think. And then we got Roll the Bones. I think this is another great album. This is pretty much their first 90s album. Next up we got Counterparts, which again I think is another underrated Rush album, but it is closer to the bottom for me in terms of their discography, but it is good. Next up we got Test for Echo, another great album. A lot of great songs on here, such as the title track, Time in Motion, and Resist. Those are some of my favorites on this record, and yeah, it's a great album. And then we got Vapor Trails, which was the first 2000s, or their modern era. This is like their first modern era albums, you want to call it. Yeah, this is a good album, but it is probably my least favorite Rush album, to be honest. But that's not saying much, because I do think it's a good album, but my least favorite. And then we got the covers album, Feedback. It's nice to have. These are some good covers, so yeah, recommend it if you're a Rush fan. It's pretty good. And then we got Snakes and Arrows. which is a good album, I must say. A lot of great stuff on here, like Far Cry and Armor and Sword. Some great stuff on this record, man. Definitely a good one. And then, of course, we got the finale of their discography. That is, if they don't make like a reunion in an album and things like that. We got the album Clockwork Angels, which I think is actually a good final album if this is their final album. Yeah, so many great stuff on here, like the title track, Halo Effect, The Wreckers, The Garden. I mean, a lot of solid stuff on this album. I mean, it's definitely good. So yeah, Clockwork Angels. So yeah, guys, that is it for my Rush CD collection. I do have just about every Rush album, including that covers album. I don't think that this band has ever released a bad album, and you know, for a band that's released like nearly 20 albums, that's not an easy task to achieve, to never release a bad album. But obviously some albums are just better than others, but that's what you get with any band. But I do think Rush, nonetheless, is just a fantastic band. I definitely recommend them if you're looking for a good progressive metal band, or not progressive metal, but progressive rock band to listen to. Definitely check out Rush. If you're a rock fan in general, you should definitely check out Rush, as I've said before. So with that being said, guys, let me know what you guys think of my collection. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Take care.